I want to just maybe put a pin in that interchain DAO thing. How does that work? Like, what orchestrates the votes?
Yeah, so actually, this interchain governance was built on top of Abstract, which is an interchain app platform, but we also have on chain infrastructure that sits on multiple chains. So the way that this worked is that uh, at the base, there's a state synchronization mechanism where one chain can propose a state change, that being a proposal, and that propagates the state change to the other chains. And once that is synchronized, the originating chain gets an acknowledgement back, and then they tell everyone, hey, the state is synchronized, and now you can vote on this proposal. Everyone votes individually. They synchronize their state to their other chains, and once the proposal has expired, the votes are tallied, and then the proposal is executed.
Okay, so there is no, practically speaking, like there is no sort of central orchestration mechanism. The chains are reaching consensus together as if you had like a blockchain of chains per se,
Yes.
of sorts.
And the funniest thing about this is that you could build a blockchain with this kind of application, which we are calling a mesh application, where there's not a central hub. Because traditionally, interchain applications have a hub and spoke model, where there's one controller chain and multiple chains that listen to commands from that controller chain. So I hope that we see a new wave of these applications. Of course, the very first one of these being mesh security, which pioneered by a couple CosmWasm OGs in years past.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. And so this was all built using Abstract.
Yes. So one of the projects did do a hub and spoke model, and the second project was this mesh governance model.
Okay, nice. And what were you working on at the hackathon?
Mesh governance.
You were okay. So that
Yeah,
was your
so
project.
yeah, my co-founder and I, Robin, he and I built this mesh governance using Abstract's new IBC features, making it really easy for contracts to talk to one another across multiple chains. And of course, this doesn't restrict you to just having one contract calling another one. You can have one contract call this other contract that calls another contract on another chain. And so this allows you to create really interesting loops and mechanisms like this mesh consensus that we devised.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, and what's going to come out of this? I mean, are you going to like build this in as a product in Abstract? Like I realize we haven't really gotten into Abstract yet, but yeah.
Yeah, I'd really like to see a new interchain DAO forming, and specifically forming for public goods funding, because I think this is one of the biggest problems that we've seen in Cosmos over the years, is that projects that benefit multiple different chains don't always get funding, because every chain is trying to drive as much value as possible to itself, to the application. This is part of the app chain thesis, so of course it makes sense. Though when you have infrastructure that spans multiple chains, the chains themselves, they only want to fund things that drive the value there. So with an interchain DAO, the chains can vote on allocating funds to projects that may benefit multiple chains in the ecosystem. And I hope this creates a new paradigm because the Cosmos Hub and the AEZ Quadratic Funding Program is still, a centralized entity. It's still something pushed by the Cosmos Hub. And maybe the CosmWasm chains want to form some sort of a DAO and vote on CosmWasm tooling. And
Yeah, well, with the recent shift or sort of changing of the guard at the ICF Foundation Council, one could imagine maybe having that organization run by a DAO of chains that utilize Cosmos SDK technology, IBC, and that are directly impacted by its funding. I mean, it's an idea, maybe an interesting thought experiment, but.